there's something I don't want to talk about. So this is a subject that's going to be a little bit contradictory to my normal repertoire. I know that I have often talked about in a lot of different entries being an advocate for depression and mental health awareness. But this is tough for me because I don't really know how to describe it. I don't really know which end to drop off into. For background purposes, I have pretty much dealt with depression most of my life. I've always known, probably since I was in the single digits range, I was different. I chalked it up to being empathetic. I chalked it up to being, wishy-washy, immature, puberty. I've written the book, or have co-written the book, on excuses to put off the inevitable. I came to terms with it when I was 16, thereabouts, and it ebbed and flowed. And over the recent months, it's gotten worse. And it's just hard for me for many different reasons. So I want to talk about this open and freely. And before anybody just says, Boogie Night's being dramatic, Boogie Night is crying out for attention, no. This is a two-pronged thing. One, this is a way for y'all to get to know me better, not just as a content creator, but as a person. But also because if you know somebody, or you are somebody that is in the dark place like me, you'll find this way to establish a conversation and find a way out. Because nobody deserves to feel like that. I read somewhere that depression is kind of like being colorblind and everybody else describing how beautiful everything is, and that really kind of struck a chord with me. For me, it's like being in a gray void, or gray and black void, and you're just kind of floating. There's no color, there's no light, there's no joy, there's no feeling, you're just numb. And I've come to live with that numbness. And I just kind of realize how much damage it's done. Not just for me, but to those around me. And that's why I don't talk about it, because there's a lot of balls in the air. And I think in a lot of cases, that's why I sin eat. That's why I absorb other people's, negativity. I absorb their hurt so they can feel better, so they don't have to feel like that. And that's not healthy either. Just, for those that don't understand, let me just kind of give you a brief overview. Imagine that no matter what you do, you feel no joy in life. You do it because you have to. You do it because you're compelled to, and not because you want to. And you can't savor the little victories without something else knocking you upside the head and saying you can't be content, you can't be, happy, you have to keep doing this, you have to keep doing that. It's this Sisyphean struggle constantly uphill. When you think you're at the crest, the boulder comes toppling back down to the bottom and you have to start from scratch. Not a lot of people understand that. And that's not to say I haven't tried to establish conversations, and I have with various individuals, and whether it's they don't understand, or they just don't quite grasp it, or they choose not to grasp it, it's a barrage of, you need to do this, you shouldn't do this, you need to do that, you shouldn't do blah, 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 blah. It's cyclical. And, I've tried those things. I've, been in and out of therapy for 20 plus years. I've done the self-help books. I've done the self-help things. I've done the self-affirmations, and nothing's worked. Now, the therapy does work, but that also can only do so much. And sometimes it's not enough. After a while, You just kind of go into autopilot mode. Or, in my case, I just wall up. And I think that's where a lot of damage is done, not just to me, but to others. And I'm not trying to paint myself as a victim or as a martyr or anything like that. But it's the only thing I know. I don't argue, I don't lash out, I don't confront, because at that point I know that it's not going to help anybody. So I withdraw. And not finding any joy in life is draining. I work my ass off, 10 to 13 hours a day. I record every night, 6 to 7 days a week. And I try to be there for my friends and the ones that I love. And sometimes it just feels like it's a one-way street. And for those that follow me on Twitter, y'all have seen an influx of probably somewhat angry tweets talking about listening, talking about how important and imperative it is to be there for one another and to listen and to affirm. And that's not meant to be projecting or spouting off my own insecurities and my own anxiety, but rather just the truth behind it. Because when you're depressed, or you have some variant of depression, anything you hear is a foreign language. It's like the Charlie Brown. You're trying to explain something, all you hear is wah, 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 until something actually breaks through. There's a translation. And a lot of times it's affirmation. And that's the really important thing. Because, as I've said in many other interludes, positivity trumps negativity. It's true. It builds your confidence, it builds your morale, it gives you enough energy to get you over maybe one hump, or to savor a little victory. And a lot of the times, especially in my case, I feel like I'm alone. Just always. And I know there's people out there that'll smack me on the back of the head and say, what are you talking about? I can be there for you at the drop of a hat. And there are people that are there at the drop of a hat, day or night. One person in particular, who's been there for me for a while. But other times, people say they will be there, and for me, when I need it, they're not. Or I feel like they're not. And anybody who's known me for any period of time over the past 3 years, give or take, no, I don't like talking about myself unless I'm asked. And just to sum it up, because I've talked about this in numerous other interludes, I don't talk about myself unless asked because I'm afraid to. Because, not that I'm afraid for someone to get to know the real me, but afraid that they are going to react in a way that's not conducive for healing. And as I've said before, I think there's an air of relatability when somebody comes to you and says, I need to talk, or if you ask somebody, are you okay? And they talk. We want to put ourselves in that person's shoes. We want to be able to relate so we know they're not alone. But sometimes that's when the wedge is driven. Because the relatability goes from them to the listener. And that can be more damaging than you know. And in this current state of affairs where we are right now, listening is key. Affirmation is key. Yes, there's going to be disagreements. Yes, there's going to be exchanges of ideas. Yes, there's going to be judgments. But the stigma has to be put to rest. Not everybody is a walking time bomb. Not everybody is, waiting to jump on the third rail. But there are people in darkness. There are people who are hurting, and I'm one of them. So, in brass tacks, The only way I can sum it up is talk to somebody. Establish that conversation. It doesn't have to be with a professional, but it could be a good idea. But we need to end the stigma. We need to end this stereotype, and we need to listen. It's the only way we're going to get around this. Particularly somebody in my shoes, or those that can relate. There are resources out there, but it comes down to one brass tack. Be there for somebody you care about. And if you need to reach out to somebody, do it. Make them listen, and if they aren't prepared or they don't want to, it's okay to leave them alone. But you will find somebody. This is something I didn't want to talk about because I'm spent, because I'm shattered, I am broken. But I know there's others out there same as me. And that's where the healing comes in. Strength in numbers, working together. Maybe this is not making sense. Maybe this is just me rambling as I tend to do in any video. But I'm tired of feeling alone. I'm tired of feeling like I can't celebrate any positivity because I'm just waiting for the next gunfire to come through. Or the next shell attack to come through. And being vague is the only real way I can do it. Because it's my own way of talking myself through it. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day, depression is a solo journey. It's something we all have to walk alone because every person is different. Everybody has a variation of it. And maybe we can't relate to somebody else, maybe somebody else can't relate to us. But the key thing is listening, and the key thing is affirming and being sideline support, as somebody told me. And if you can't be there, then just say, I'm sorry. Don't pretend to understand, don't offer judgments, don't offer advice. Just say, I don't understand, I can't pretend to understand, but I can't do it right now. It's better than lying. Better than lying to somebody else, and it's better than lying to yourself. But as somebody with depression and anxiety, I don't want to keep faking being this strong-willed, stubborn, I'm a Virgo, I should have been an Aries. I don't want to be strong anymore. I want to be safe. I want to appreciate it. I want to get out of this void. So, all I'm saying is it's time to put the stigma and the rumors to rest. And we need to be there for each other. And we need to be there for ourselves. So maybe I'm making sense, maybe I'm not. Who knows? And it's time I get it off my chest. So with that being said, thanks for listening. I'll catch you on the flip side.